When a woman rejects you, it's one of the hardest things to accept. Your ego takes a hit, your emotions feel crushed, and your mind starts racing with ways to win her back. You think, maybe if I just explain how I feel, maybe if I show her I've changed, maybe if I stay in touch, she'll see what she's missing. But here's the truth. The moment she rejects you, your only move is silence. You never, ever break no contact. Rejection is her way of saying, I don't feel it right now. You can't negotiate attraction. You can't talk her into wanting you. The more you chase, the more she runs. The more you try to convince her, the more she sees you as someone who doesn't respect himself. Respect her words, and more importantly, respect yourself enough to walk away. Silence is your most powerful response. When you disappear, you give her the gift of missing you. She can't feel your absence if you never leave. The quiet makes her wonder, where did you go? Why haven't you called? Does he even care anymore? That uncertainty is far more powerful than any text, call, or message you could ever send. When you stay in no contact, you show strength. You're saying, I'm not here to beg for love. I'm here because I choose myself. That's what true self-respect looks like. Breaking no contact tells her you need her to feel complete. Keeping it tells her you already are. People are drawn to strength, not neediness. They're drawn to confidence, not desperation. Remember this, you cannot fix attraction through logic. You can't reason someone into loving you. Attraction is emotional. It's either there or it isn't. When you start pleading your case or explaining why she should be with you, you're destroying the emotional mystery that draws people together. You're turning passion into pity, and pity never leads to love. But no contact isn't about playing games or manipulating her feelings. It's about you healing. It's about cutting the emotional cord so you can rebuild your confidence, focus on your growth, and find peace again. When you stop obsessing over her, you start rediscovering yourself. You become more grounded, more secure, more attractive. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you've learned to stand alone. And here's the beautiful truth. If she ever realizes she made a mistake, she'll reach out. She'll find a reason to contact you. You won't have to chase, convince, or push. She'll come to you. And if she doesn't, then you'll know it was never meant to be, and you'll already be walking forward with your head high. So when she rejects you, remember this, silence is power. No contact isn't punishment, it's preservation. It's you choosing dignity over desperation, peace over pain, and self-respect over self-doubt. Because the moment you learn to walk away from what doesn't want you, you open the door to something and someone that truly will. When someone rejects you, it means that in that moment, they do not feel a romantic connection or emotional attraction strong enough to pursue something deeper with you. That can sting. It challenges your confidence, your pride, and your hopes. But the most important thing you can do in that situation is to accept it completely and without resistance. So rejection means no, and no is not a signal for negotiation. It is not a challenge to overcome. It's a boundary that deserves respect. When you respect that boundary, you show emotional maturity and inner strength, two traits that are far more powerful than any attempt to persuade someone to change their mind. Many people make the mistake of thinking that if they just try harder, explain more, or prove their worth, they can make someone want them. They send texts, they show up unexpectedly, or they try to stay friends just to remain close. But what they don't realize is that every attempt to chase someone who has already said no only lowers their perceived value. It sends the message that you don't believe you're worthy of love unless that person validates you. And the more you try to convince them, the more unattractive you become. Respecting rejection doesn't mean giving up easily. It means having enough self-respect to understand that love cannot be forced or negotiated. True attraction and connection grow freely, not from pressure or persuasion. When you walk away calmly after being rejected, you communicate something powerful, that you are confident in your own worth, that your happiness isn't dependent on another person's approval, and that you are capable of moving forward with grace. That attitude leaves a lasting impression far deeper than desperate pursuit ever could. It's also important to remember that people's feelings change, but they only change in the space you allow. If someone rejects you, they may need time and distance to truly feel your absence and reflect on what you meant to them. Constant contact prevents that. When you keep reaching out, they never get the chance to miss you because you're still there, emotionally available, waiting. Respecting rejection means giving them the silence and space to feel whatever they need to feel without interference. On a deeper level, respecting a no also protects your emotional health. When you accept rejection and move on, you stop wasting energy on trying to change someone's heart. You stop fighting a battle that was never yours to win. You free yourself from the pain of false hope and from the mental exhaustion of overanalyzing every word or gesture. You redirect that energy toward healing, growing, and rediscovering your strength. Over time, this acceptance turns into peace, the kind that only comes from knowing you honored yourself in the process. There's a quiet confidence that comes with walking away after rejection. It's the confidence of someone who doesn't need to chase validation because they already know their value. People who carry that mindset naturally attract respect from others, even from the one who rejected them. Ironically, it's often when you truly let go that you become most appealing because your detachment shows emotional control. You're not trying to prove anything. You've already proven enough just by walking away with dignity. At its core, respecting rejection is an act of self-love. It's saying, I deserve someone who chooses me freely, not out of guilt, pity, or pressure. It's understanding that rejection doesn't define your worth, it simply redirects your path. Every no is a filter. It clears the way for something and someone more aligned with you. By honoring the rejection instead of fighting it, you protect your peace, preserve your self-respect, and make room for the kind of connection that doesn't need convincing. So when someone rejects you, don't argue, don't beg, and don't chase. Smile, wish them well, and walk away with your head high. That single act of acceptance is one of the strongest demonstrations of character a person can show. In time, you'll realize that respecting no wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your self-respect. Scarcity creates value. It's one of the most powerful truths in human relationships and psychology. What's rare is desired, what's abundant is taken for granted. This principle applies everywhere, from economics to romance. When something becomes scarce, people notice its absence, they think about it more, and its perceived worth increases. When you're constantly available to someone who's rejected you, your presence becomes ordinary, predictable, and easily ignored. But when you pull back and remove yourself from their life, you create emotional scarcity, and that's when your true value starts to rise in their eyes. When a woman knows you're always there, waiting for her texts, liking her posts, or responding instantly, she subconsciously feels that she doesn't need to earn your attention. You've already handed it to her on a silver platter. There's no mystery, no challenge, and no excitement left. Human nature is wired to appreciate what feels earned, not what feels guaranteed. When you stop making yourself easily accessible, you instantly become more intriguing. Your absence creates curiosity. She starts to wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and why you've suddenly gone quiet. That curiosity can often reignite attraction in a way that constant communication never could. This is not about playing games, it's about restoring balance. After rejection, the power dynamic is completely tilted. She has all the control because she knows you're still emotionally invested. By stepping back and cutting contact, you silently take your power back. You're no longer available on demand, and that changes everything. You're now showing that your time and energy are valuable, that you won't invest them where they aren't appreciated. Scarcity creates a natural sense of respect. It reminds the other person that your presence is not a given, it's a privilege. When you disappear from her life, she's left with the silence you used to fill. Maybe she starts to notice the lack of your messages, your jokes, your energy. Maybe she realizes that the attention she thought would always be there is gone. That absence creates space for reflection, space where she can feel what life is like without you. People often don't understand the value of something until they lose it. By maintaining no contact and making yourself scarce, you allow that realization to take root naturally. Scarcity also benefits you on a personal level. It forces you to redirect your energy inward. Instead of chasing someone who isn't choosing you, you start focusing on your own goals, health, and happiness. You become more productive, more confident, and more centered. And as you grow, your emotional value increases even more. When you do this genuinely, not to manipulate, but to improve yourself, people can sense it. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to be noticed, but because your self-worth now speaks louder than your words ever could. So one of the biggest mistakes people make after rejection is trying to stay friends or keep communication open, hoping it might lead to something. But that only makes you less valuable. It signals that you're willing to settle for less than what you really want. It tells her that even after being turned down, you'll stick around, which destroys any sense of scarcity. Real power comes from walking away and meaning it. When you truly vanish, when you stop checking in, she's forced to feel your absence, and that absence can do what your words never could. Scarcity creates contrast. It reminds people of the difference between what they had and what they have now. It gives your absence weight. Without that contrast, there's no emotional spark, no sense of loss, no reason for her to reconsider her decision. People don't miss what they still have access to, they miss what's gone. By staying in no contact and valuing your own time, you create the emotional space where genuine attraction can either be reborn, or you can fully move on with peace and strength. So remember, the more you chase, the less value you have. The more you pull back, the more valuable your presence becomes. Scarcity isn't about manipulation, it's about self-respect. It's about understanding that your attention is precious and should be earned, not given freely to someone who's already said no. When you embrace scarcity, you shift from chasing validation to commanding respect, and in that shift, you don't just become more attractive, you become untouchable. Silence speaks louder than words, especially after rejection. When someone walks away from you, your instinct may be to talk, to explain, to reason, to ask questions, or to express your feelings one last time. You want closure, you want understanding, you want to be heard. But in reality, silence communicates far more powerfully than any words ever could. It's the sound of emotional control, self-respect, and acceptance. It tells the other person, without you saying a thing, that you are strong enough to walk away, that you don't need to chase, and that your peace matters more than proving a point. When you choose silence after rejection, you stop feeding the emotional dynamic that once gave her power. She can no longer rely on your attention or your responses to affirm her decision. She doesn't get to see you trying, explaining, or waiting. All she's left with is your absence, and that absence begins to echo in her mind. It creates space for her to wonder what you're thinking, what you're doing, and why you've suddenly stopped reaching out. That uncertainty becomes more impactful than any words you could have said to convince her to stay. Silence also forces emotional distance, which is necessary for both healing and reflection. Every time you talk to someone who rejected you, you reopen the wound. You keep the emotional connection alive even when the relationship isn't. Silence, on the other hand, allows the emotional noise to settle. It creates room for clarity, for you to see things as they really are, not as you wish they were. It lets you process your feelings, regain your balance, and start rebuilding your confidence without outside interference. For the other person, your silence can become a mirror. It reflects their choices back at them. When you stop communicating, you're no longer trying to make them feel something. They have to sit with their own thoughts. Maybe they start to miss the way you made them feel. Maybe they start to question their decision, or maybe they realize how much attention they used to take for granted. Silence forces them to experience the natural consequences of walking away from someone who cared. You don't need to argue or persuade. Your absence does the talking for you. Silence also demonstrates emotional maturity. It shows that you know when to step back and that you understand not every situation needs to be fixed with words. Some people use constant communication as a way to control the outcome or avoid discomfort. But true strength is shown in restraint. It's having the discipline to say nothing, even when your emotions are screaming for you to reach out. In a world where everyone overshares, overtexts, and overexplains, silence stands out. It's rare, it's powerful, and it makes people pay attention. Moreover, silence protects your dignity. Once you've been rejected, there's nothing more to discuss. Anything you say afterward risks lowering your self-worth. By staying silent, you preserve your image in her mind as someone who respects himself enough not to beg for attention. That memory often lingers longer and stronger than any emotional plea ever would. People remember how you handled rejection, and when you handle it with grace and calm detachment, you leave a lasting impression of confidence. But silence isn't just about making her think, it's about helping you move forward. It's your emotional detox. Every day you remain silent, you take back a piece of your power. You stop seeking validation and start building it within yourself. You begin to realize that you don't need anyone to complete you because you're already whole. That quiet space becomes your foundation for growth, self-improvement. In relationships, people often underestimate how loud silence can be. Words can be ignored, dismissed, or forgotten, but silence lingers. It creates mystery tension. It forces both people to confront reality without distraction. When you stay silent after rejection, you're not losing, you're winning in the most dignified way possible. You're choosing your self-respect over temporary comfort. You're saying, if you don't want me, I won't fight to stay. I'll let my silence say everything you need to hear, so the next time you're tempted to break no contact, to send that one more message, to try to explain yourself, stop, take a breath. Remember that silence is your strongest statement. It's the proof that you're not desperate, that you're not seeking approval, and that you trust time to reveal the truth. In the end, silence doesn't just speak louder than words, it speaks with a power that words can never match. Self-respect is the foundation of attraction because no matter how much chemistry, charm, or physical appeal you have, nothing is more magnetic than a person who values themselves. When someone rejects you, that's the moment your self-respect is tested most. You can either chase after them and try to convince them of your worth, or you can walk away and prove it through your actions. The choice you make in that moment defines how others see you. and more importantly, how you see yourself. Attraction begins with how you treat yourself, not how others treat you. When you hold yourself in high regard, people naturally sense it. They respond to your confidence, your calmness, and your boundaries. When you break no contact or beg for another chance after being rejected, what you're really doing is trading your self-respect for temporary emotional relief. You're saying, my need for your attention is more important than my dignity. But self-respect means the opposite. It means you recognize your value even when someone else doesn't. It means you're not defined by another person's opinion of you. The moment you compromise your self-respect to win someone back, you've already lost something far more valuable. Lips, your own integrity. People may not consciously think about it, but they feel it. They sense when someone is confident and when someone is desperate. And desperation repels, while confidence attracts. True self-respect also sets the tone for how others treat you. If you allow disrespect, inconsistency, or rejection without walking away, you teach people that they can devalue you without consequence. But when you stand firm and refuse to accept less than mutual interest and appreciation, you establish your worth. It's not arrogance, it's healthy self-esteem. The strongest message you can send after rejection is silence combined with composure. That calm detachment tells her, I wanted you, but I don't need you. That's the essence of real power. Wanting someone without depending on them for validation. Self-respect also transforms your energy. When you prioritize yourself, you become centered, grounded, and emotionally independent. You stop chasing love and start attracting it naturally because people are drawn to those who radiate inner peace and confidence. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who just seemed comfortable in their own skin? They don't try too hard. They don't seek approval. They move through the world knowing their worth, and that quiet confidence makes others curious and drawn to them. That's the kind of attraction that self-respect creates. One that's effortless and authentic. After rejection, maintaining self-respect is also about emotional discipline. So your feelings will tell you to reach out to fix things, to hold on. But self-respect is the voice that says, no, I deserve more than begging for attention. It's the strength to endure silence, to face loneliness, and to trust that you'll be okay without them. That strength builds character. It makes you emotionally tougher, more resilient, and far more attractive in the long run. Because confidence doesn't come from always being chosen. It comes from knowing you'll still be fine when you're not. The irony is that when you fully embrace your self-respect, that's often when the person who rejected you begins to see your true value. When they realize you're not chasing them, not waiting by the phone, and not trying to prove your worth, it forces them to re-evaluate their perception of you. Your absence becomes a statement. Your calmness becomes unforgettable. But even if they don't come back, you win, because you didn't lose yourself trying to win someone else. Self-respect also protects you from toxic cycles. When you love yourself enough to walk away from someone who doesn't appreciate you, you send a message to the universe that you won't settle for less. You start attracting people who mirror that same respect and appreciation. Relationships built on equality, mutual effort, and respect are always stronger than those built on chasing or proving. You stop begging for attention and start expecting effort, and that shift changes everything. At the end of the day, attraction rooted in self-respect lasts, while attraction built on neediness fades. The most powerful person in any relationship is the one who doesn't compromise their self-worth for love. So when rejection happens, don't see it as a blow to your ego. See it as an opportunity to reinforce your self-respect. Stand tall, walk away, and focus on becoming the kind of person who never needs to chase love, because love naturally gravitates toward those who already value themselves. That's why self-respect isn't just part of attraction. It's the very foundation of it. You can't fix attraction through logic because attraction is an emotional response, not a rational decision. It's something that happens naturally, often without conscious control. You can't argue, convince, or explain your way into someone's heart. Once someone loses interest or doesn't feel that emotional spark, no amount of reasoning will change it. Yet, after rejection, many people make the mistake of trying to fix things with logic. They send long messages, try to clarify misunderstandings, or make emotional appeals like, but we were so good together, or you'll never find someone who cares like I do. What they don't realize is that these words don't reignite attraction. They extinguish it further by exposing neediness and emotional dependence. Attraction doesn't respond to logic, it responds to emotion, energy, and mystery. Think of it like a flame. It needs oxygen to burn. Constant communication, pleading, or explaining suffocates that flame. When you chase after someone who rejected you, you're not giving them space to feel anything for you. You're overwhelming the situation with your desire to control the outcome. That control stems from fear, the fear of loss, rejection, or being forgotten. But fear never inspires attraction, confidence does. True attraction is sparked by emotional freedom, not pressure or persuasion. When someone loses attraction, it's usually because the emotional polarity that once existed has faded. Maybe you became too available, too predictable, or too emotionally dependent. Trying to use logic to reverse that is like trying to light a fire with water. It just doesn't work. The more you talk about feelings, the more you analyze what went wrong, the less chemistry remains. Attraction thrives in mystery, uncertainty, and emotional distance. That's why silence and space are so effective. They allow curiosity and emotional tension to rebuild naturally. Another reason logic fails in matters of attraction is that people are driven by how they feel, not by what they think. A woman doesn't fall in love because you list all your good qualities or explain why you're the right choice. She falls in love because of how she feels when she's around you, safe, excited, inspired, or challenged. When she rejects you, those feelings have faded. Logic can't bring them back because feelings aren't built through argument. They're built through experience. If the experience of being around you has turned into stress, pleading, or emotional heaviness, then no logical explanation will change that perception. In fact, trying to fix attraction through logic often backfires. It pushes the other person further away because it shows that you don't understand emotional dynamics. When you say things like, "But we can make this work if you just try," or "You're making a mistake," you're not appealing to emotion, you're appealing to reason. And love doesn't operate in reason's territory. All she hears is pressure. What she feels is suffocation. And instead of reconsidering, she becomes even more certain that she made the right decision by walking away. The only way to rebuild attraction, if it's possible at all, is through emotional distance. When you stop chasing and start focusing on yourself, you shift the dynamic. You go from being the one who needs validation to the one who gives it to yourself. That shift in energy, from needy to confident, is what can reignite attraction naturally. But even then, it's not guaranteed and it should never be your goal. Your goal should be to heal, grow, and rediscover your self-worth. When you do that, you stop trying to fix attraction and start embodying it. It's important to accept that not every connection can or should be repaired. Sometimes rejection is simply the universe's way of redirecting you toward something better. By trying to use logic to make someone love you, you're clinging to control instead of trusting the process. Love isn't built in the mind, it's felt in the heart. You can't convince someone to feel something they don't, just as you can't talk yourself into falling in love with someone you're not drawn to. Attraction defies logic, and that's what makes it so powerful and unpredictable. So, the next time you're tempted to reason your way back into someone's life, stop and remember that emotions don't follow logic. Instead of explaining why she should be with you, focus on becoming the kind of person she would want to be with. Confident, grounded, and self-sufficient. Let your silence, your growth, and your calmness speak for you. Because in the end, attraction can't be explained into existence. It can only be felt. And the moment you stop trying to force it, you give it the only thing it ever needed to return space. No contact isn't about manipulation. It's about healing. Many people misunderstand the purpose of no contact after a rejection or breakup. They think it's a tactic to make the other person miss them, a way to play hard to get, or a psychological trick to regain control. But that mindset misses the true point entirely. No contact isn't about trying to control someone else's emotions. It's about reclaiming your own. It's about stepping back, cutting emotional dependency, and giving yourself the space and silence you need to rebuild from the inside out. When a relationship ends or someone rejects you, your emotions go into chaos. Your mind keeps replaying conversations, your heart aches for validation, and you feel an overwhelming need to fix things. That's a natural human reaction, but acting on it only prolongs the pain. Every time you text, call, or check their social media, you reopen the wound. No contact is the emotional boundary that protects you from yourself. It's saying, I won't feed this pain anymore. I'm choosing peace, even if it hurts at first. It's the first real step toward emotional freedom. Healing requires distance, both physical and emotional. You can't gain clarity while you're still entangled in someone else's energy. When you keep communication open, you stay stuck in the cycle of hope and disappointment. You wait for messages, analyze every word, and measure your worth based on their responses. But when you go no contact, that constant noise starts to fade. At first, it's uncomfortable. Silence feels heavy, but slowly that silence becomes soothing. You start to hear your own thoughts again. You start to feel your own emotions separate from theirs. And in that stillness, you begin to heal. The biggest misconception about no contact is thinking it's a strategy to make them come back. That's not what it's for. If that happens, it's a byproduct, not the goal. The real goal is to detach, not with bitterness, but with acceptance. You use the time apart to rebuild your confidence, focus on your personal growth, and remind yourself of your value. You start exercising, reconnecting with friends, pursuing goals, and rediscovering the parts of yourself that may have faded during the relationship. This process transforms the pain of rejection into a foundation for personal power. When you approach no contact with the mindset of manipulation, you're still emotionally tied to the outcome. You're waiting for her to text, to regret, to miss you. You're not really healing, you're just holding your breath. True no contact means letting go of control completely. It means trusting that whatever is meant for you won't need to be forced. It's choosing to prioritize your emotional health over your ego's need to win. Once you truly embrace that, something incredible happens. You start to feel lighter. The constant anxiety begins to fade and peace starts to take its place. Over time, you'll realize that no contact isn't punishment, it's protection. It shields you from more pain by stopping the cycle of emotional dependency. It allows you to grieve, to reflect, and to grow stronger. You may still miss her, but the difference is that you're no longer defined by that longing. You begin to understand that healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means remembering without pain. You start appreciating what the experience taught you rather than resenting how it ended. That's real emotional maturity. And here's the truth: when you genuinely heal, you stop needing them to come back. You stop needing closure from them because you've already found it within yourself. If they do reach out later, you'll respond from a place of peace, not desperation. And if they don't, you'll still be okay because you've already reclaimed your power. That's the beauty of no contact done right. It shifts the focus from them to you. It's not a game, it's growth. It's not manipulation, it's self-love. So, when you choose no contact, do it for the right reasons. Don't do it to get attention or to prove a point. Do it because you deserve to heal, to breathe again, and to stand on your own 2 feet without depending on someone else for validation. Every day you stay silent, you're telling yourself, I matter. My peace matters. And that quiet commitment to your own well-being is what transforms pain into power. No contact isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of your recovery, your strength, and your rediscovery of who you really are. If she truly wants you, she'll reach out. That single truth is one of the hardest things to accept after rejection, but it's also one of the most liberating. When a woman decides to walk away, it's natural to feel the urge to fight for her, to explain yourself, or to show her what she's losing. But doing that only traps you in a cycle of chasing someone who isn't choosing you. Real attraction, real love, and real interest don't need to be forced. They flow naturally. If she genuinely has feelings for you, or if she ever reconsiders her decision, she will reach out on her own. You won't have to persuade her. You won't have to beg. She'll find a reason to contact you, no matter how much time has passed. When you maintain no contact after rejection, you give her the space to feel the consequences of her choice. You allow her to experience life without you in it. If she had comfort knowing that you'd always be around, liking her posts, replying to her stories, or checking in just to see how she's doing, she never really lost you. She just knew she could have you whenever she wanted. But when you completely remove yourself, when you stop initiating contact and stop making yourself emotionally available, she starts to feel that absence. That's when reality hits her. She begins to wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and whether you've moved on. That curiosity can only exist when silence does. If she truly values what you had, she won't be able to stay away forever. She'll think about the good moments, the connection, and the energy you brought into her life. That memory becomes louder the longer you stay silent. But if she doesn't reach out, then that's your answer. She doesn't feel that same connection anymore, and that's okay. It's not your job to change your feelings. It's your job to accept them and keep your self-respect intact. Love is never one-sided. It has to be mutual to work. And any relationship built on chasing will only end in exhaustion and resentment. When you break no contact, hoping to remind her of you, so you're actually doing the opposite. You're reminding her why she lost attraction in the first place. You're confirming that you're still waiting, still hoping, still emotionally dependent on her approval. That doesn't inspire attraction. It reinforces her decision to reject you. But when you stay silent, you send a completely different message. You're saying, I wanted you, but I respect your choice. I'm moving on with or without you. That emotional detachment is powerful. It puts the ball entirely in her court where it belongs. The truth is, if a woman has genuine interest, she won't let pride stop her from reaching out. She'll find an excuse to talk, maybe a simple, hey, how have you been? Or, I saw something that reminded me of you. That's her way of testing the waters. If she really wants you back, she'll show effort. You won't have to decode vague signals or chase for clarity. A woman's actions will always speak louder than her words. If she's not reaching out, it's because she doesn't feel the need to. And that's your cue to keep moving forward, not to chase what's standing still. Believing that, if she wants me, she'll reach out, isn't about arrogance, it's about trusting reality. It's about understanding that attraction isn't something you can force. It's either there or it isn't. The moment you accept that, you free yourself from the anxiety of waiting for a response that might never come. You start living your life again. You focus on your growth, your goals, your peace. Ironically, that's also when people tend to come back. Not because you try to make them, but because you became a stronger version of yourself. Your absence speaks louder than your presence ever could. And even if she never reaches out, that doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've honored yourself enough not to beg for love. You gave her the freedom to choose, and you gave yourself the freedom to move on. That's real strength. The kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that doesn't chase what's not choosing you. Because, in the end, love that's meant for you will never need to be forced. The right woman won't need convincing. She'll reach out because she wants to, not because you pressured her to. And if she doesn't, you can walk away knowing that you didn't lose her. You simply made space for someone who will never have to be asked twice